What's up, everybody? I'm Tyler Caldwell,
I'm Alan Britt.
and we want to get a little controversial with you today.
That's what we do.
That's right, man. So I've noticed lately a lot of controversy on the topic of flavor notes in your tobacco, particularly cigars.
Indeed.
This is a topic that has probably been controversial for a long time, but what I've seen through social media lately, it's been quite the buzz going on. So we just kind of want to weigh in on some opinions and what we feel about that.
Yeah. From my understanding, flavor notes were brought into cigars in the early 90s with the emergence of Cigar Aficionado and magazines and such. Before, it had kind of only been applied to wine tasting. And on the contrary to what a lot of people would say, I don't necessarily get those things in wine.
Sure.
I think so much of it has to do with being taught how to unlock those flavors you're tasting. Or you could believe it's all a load of baloney and think that we're lying straight to your faces.
Well, to go along with that right there, I've always seen this topic as kind of like a double-edged sword, because on one side, if you don't get like flavor notes, or what I should say is like additional essential flavors to your cigar,
Right.
you're going to get all these aficionados who are going to say, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know how to smoke a cigar, like they don't believe in that theory of cigar good, cigar bad, like how do you not taste what I taste, right?
Right.
But on the other side of that blade, if I do come out and say I get all these types of flavors and when I'm smoking and everything, you're going to get the other side of the pendulum with the folks who are going to say, like, you're just using this as like a marketing ploy. Like, you're just trying to sell me the cigar by saying it's going to taste like this. And then I'm going to smoke it and I'm going to taste nothing of what you talked about. So I think where that controversy comes in, where I want to throw it out an opinion, is I can smoke something, you can smoke something. We can get two completely different things. Same with anyone who's watching this. Like, you can sit here, like, we can talk about these cigars here in a minute, but we're going to go into the fact that our tastes are different, your tastes are different. At the end of the day, this is a product that you spent your hard-earned money on.
Yep.
What you taste, what we taste, is completely different, and that's completely fine. Like, you don't have to agree with us, we don't have to agree with you, we don't have to agree with each other. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, as long as what's in your hand and you're smoking it is something that you enjoy, that's all that really matters. So with all that being said, man, like, let's kind of go into a little bit of what we're smoking here. Like, we're both smoking the Roma Craft and Temperance Whiskey Rebellion line.
Right.
And
We chose this for a reason. Also,
right, we did.
We won't get into it right now, but if you know, you know. Shout out Skip Martin of Roma Craft.
That's right. To me, this is, for one, like a very underrated cigar. Like, Roma Craft is a very interesting company. Like, their business philosophy is like the ideas of what they put out there and how much information they put out there is less about the story, but more about like the industry and how their inner workings are, which I've always appreciated, like transparency with a company.
I think you could sum it up in they put out their goal is to put out very good cigars at a reasonable price point for people who are smoking cigars every day.
Right. I mean, and you look at today's time that we live in, where unfortunately everything's going up in price and it's not really going down.
Right.
Roma Craft always prides themselves with that factor there of, we're going to make something that's really good quality. They're cutting these little corners so they can make it less expensive to the best of their ability.
Right. Real simplistic packaging.
Absolutely.
You're never going to look at a Roma Craft product and think it's some extravagant packaging that you're paying for as the end consumer.
Right. And they kind of believe in that less is more, but like minimalist kind of look to it, but still artistic in their own way with that aspect as well. But what's interesting about this is we're both smoking Whiskey Rebellion, but we're both smoking two different sizes.
Right. My personal favorite, this little 4x44, it's an absolute killer and a staple in my humidor. I keep a box of these around.
That's right. And it's a great cigar because it's smaller. Like if you only got like 30 minutes to kill, you can bang one out.
Yeah.
But it's also good enough to where you could probably smoke that cigar for like a good hour plus.
Yeah.
If you smoke slow. Unfortunately, I don't. But I picked their newest size, the Tully. Romacraft is introducing to all their lines a new Toro size. This is a 6x54, I believe.
Chunky Toro.
I personally have not tried this size yet. So I wanted to go with something different because with the aspect of flavor notes, is it bullshit or is it not?
Yeah.
I want to see if what you taste in that size and what I taste in this size is either similar or is it different.
So getting into this Intemperance Whiskey Rebellion, personally, I've always been reminded of figs. Straight up Fig Newton, if I'm being honest. This bready, figgy flavor, slightly chocolatey. And I'm very curious to see if you find something similar in the Toro.
I would say normally I would probably agree with you because normally that size cigar is the one I gravitate towards. But with this one, I can't really say I get that. Like I can maybe touch on like that bready note.
Yeah.
But to me, like especially on the retro, I'm getting a ton more like woodsy, like a type of like pepperiness that I can't really pinpoint yet. But like the figgy note, like not at all with this guy.
Interested to try that one because it's so prominent in this size, and especially on the retro hell, the mixture of that fig note I get with quite a lot of pepper. Which you did say you're getting pepper on the retro hell. I mean, it's pretty overwhelming at times with this smaller size.
And I would say with the pepper note that I get, like it's a little more subtle, and that could be because of the size difference. You know, maybe just there's a touch more filler going into it compared to that size there. But I like the way that we're kind of describing these flavors because that kind of hones into the whole topic of the controversy of flavor notes.
Right.
There's a lot of folks out there who believe that when you talk about flavor notes, tobacco tastes like tobacco.
Yeah.
And I've always referred to people as like when you look at something like the flavor wheel, which for those who don't know, Google it. There's plenty of them out there.
Yeah.
The flavor wheel is going to give you kind of like your basic things, like your creamy sweet, your woodsy earthy, your peppery spicy, things like that. And then it kind of blends into more pinpointed flavors that you get.
More minute detail.
Right.
If you're tasting wood, is it cedary, oaky? And obviously you're not tasting those things.
Right.
Nobody's going in the forest and chomping on oak trees.
I mean, you could. It might be something interesting for you.
But it is tasting those things and then being reminiscent of a time when you have experienced that in the past. So, like, your sense of smell is a vast majority of your taste. I don't have stats, but trust me, we've all had a cold and tried to eat soup, and it's eating water, basically.
I've had a cold where my sinuses were so plugged up and tried to smoke a cigar, and it tasted like I was licking this ashtray clean.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
It's no fun, but so much of your taste relies on smell. And I use it for pipe tobacco all the time. My favorite blend, Mad Fiddler Flake, Cornell and Deal, the first time I ever opened that tin, it quite literally took me back to sitting in my grandmother's kitchen and her making pie. And there is no pie flavoring, there's no apple flavoring in that tobacco. It took me on an olfactory journey back to that moment. And, it's the same application to cigars.
And I'm really glad you actually brought up that because something I've always liked to discuss with people is when I describe a cigar, like I don't like to say this tastes like. I like to say this reminds me of.
Yeah.
Because to me, like I can smoke something, and if I do get this kind of like off the wall flavor that is beyond the norm of what you should maybe potentially be getting.
Yeah.
What I'm doing is like I'm being reminded of like an experience of maybe like a certain food that I ate that, you know, is just for whatever reason this cigar is triggering my mind to think of that memory, or it's reminding me of an experience that I had that just all kind of intertwines. And I think with the controversy of flavor notes with tobacco and cigars in particularly, I think that's more of what I think of when, you know, the folks who are like, when I like, how do you get this, you know, Cheeto dust that's been stuck to your finger flavor? Like, how do you get vanilla cupcake? Like, I'm thinking of an experience. I'm not thinking of like the actual taste that I'm getting at that moment.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. It's like I said, a recollection of all these experiences you've had in your life. I equate it to, you know, if you're opening up your laundry detergent and it's scented outdoors, whatever, rain, and you smell that and say, hey, that reminds me of, you know, this trip in the mountains I took. It's very similar to
It's
that.
just that experience trigger that you get with it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Going along with the topic of like the experience and everything, and you can share a story if you have one as well. But you know, when I think of like the times that I started noticing to be able to pick up more flavor, you know, I've been smoking cigars for way too long.
Yeah.
I smoke way too many cigars for way too long, I should say.
No,
but
you're good.
I remember smoking cigars, and I really liked it because I liked the feel. I liked the feel of the smoke in my mouth. I liked the flavors that I got, but it was also that sense of like I didn't understand the flavor I was getting,
Right.
if that makes sense. And I probably smoked cigars for, you know, 6-8 years before I learned how to retrohale. And shout out Tim Vanderpool if you're watching. He was actually the guy who guilt tripped me into learning how to retrohale.
It's also a game changer. Just
It is.
with tasting, you know, tobacco. It opens an entire new world.
What I liked about learning how to retrohale, which I will admit it sucked at first, you know, that burning, I don't want to say sensation because it was not sensational to get used to, but you overcome that and like it opened up my ability for my palate to taste more. And I started going back to cigars that for years I said, this cigar sucks, I'll never smoke it again. And then I start smoking and I'm like, I can't believe I've missed out on this for so many years, you know? And for the folks watching, like, if you are the believer that, like, you don't get all these crazy flavors you hear about, which is completely fine, if you don't retrohale, you should learn how to do it. Like, it can really help you to understand your palate. And maybe you don't get, you know, more flavor, but maybe you get more intensified flavor of what you are getting.
Just bringing back to that olfactory senses. You know, all these senses in your nasal passages, they can smell and, you know, increase taste far more than your palate can.
Right.
You know,
I kind of look at it as like opening your palate in that way is, I don't know if this is a great simile here, but when I think of it, it's like if you took a pack of like Kraft sliced cheese.
okay.
It's a very bland style of cheese to eat, right? It's good, great on a grilled cheese.
American.
That's right. And then you go into all of like the higher end, fancier, more intensified flavored cheeses like that. And you get so used to the sliced cheese, but then you start tasting these cheeses and you're like, holy, like crap, I can't believe I've missed out on this in all these years.
Right. Yeah, it's so as far as, you know, discovering that flavor and how to pick these things out, my experience, and I think it's similar to a lot of new smokers, you read these flavor notes, you read, you know, these reviews, and you see these people tasting these things, and you don't get it, and there's this hesitation that there's something wrong with you. And I very much experienced that. And when I first started smoking, I was much like many other cigar smokers. I was super into flavored cigars or infused cigars. And I think it makes it easier because you're focused on a predominant flavor already. If this is coffee flavored, you're going to taste coffee.
Right.
And you don't necessarily have to think about it.
Sure.
But reading those reviews kind of put this insecurity in me for a long time that there was something wrong with me. And it wasn't until I became more comfortable and just got into the mindset of, I spent $10 on this cigar, I'm going to enjoy it, and however I enjoy it is right.
Absolutely.
That I started kind of discovering these things slowly. And by using a flavor wheel also, saying like, oh, I do taste a woodsy note in this.
Right.
And I don't have to sit here and say it's, aged bog oak. It's just woodsy.
Right.
And that's fine.
And that's completely fine. Absolutely. On the topic of reviews and stuff, like I was in that same boat where I would read reviews of like, what is wrong with me? Like, why don't I taste these things? And it was eventually like I just started not caring.
Yeah.
Because I also understood, as much as I respected the people who were doing those reviews, and I respected their taste and their palate and their knowledge, I wasn't respecting mine.
Right.
And I started, if I could see on certain outlets with reviews out there, if I saw a cigar that they reviewed, I would go smoke the cigar first and then go read the review and then do some type of comparison.
Same.
And that's when I started realizing, like, oh, I actually do get a little bit of what they're talking about.
Yep.
And it comes with experience, and it comes with just training your palate, which I don't know if that's something that every cigar smoker can do, which is completely fine. But it's also like training yourself to taste how you want to taste,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I started smoking cigars because of my grandfather. I would see him smoke cigars when I was a kid, and it's really what inspired me to smoke my first one. My grandfather, I'd never once heard him say, that he was tasting dark chocolate and candied bacon. He smoked cigars, he enjoyed them. And to use like some youthful language, it just ain't that deep. It's okay to just enjoy things at base level. And if you want to dive into it, if you want to be able to dissect these cigars, training your palate just from experience is probably going to be the best way.
It ain't that deep, but it's only as deep as you want it to be.
Wow.
That's philosophy right there, baby.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the cigar that you're smoking is what you enjoy or it's not. There's plenty of other options out there to sample on, to smoke through. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't.
Bingo.
It's the cigar what the cigar you're smoking is what it means to you.
Yeah.
And it also comes with that experience. But hopefully this has touched a little bit on such a controversial topic. My question to you watching this, do you get flavors or do you think it's all a bunch of shit?
Yeah. Tell us in the comments.
That's right.